Welcome, everybody, to the Connor Green Podcast. I'm here with my host,
Paula,
otherwise known as Popo.
Popomas.
Yeah. And this is our first episode. So, quick update for anybody that's been paying attention. Maybe they haven't been paying attention, but you'll know anyway. Is we've been recording podcasts for months, really. Got this equipment. We're having these 2, 3, 4 hour conversations. Awesome podcast. Paola was crying all the time. I was crying. I don't think I was crying, but we did get into some really, really deep, amazing conversations. We had 2 cameras, all this stuff. And the major thing we realized is we just don't have the resources right now as presently constituted to do this big production. So what we decided, because we were putting out clips, and then we're like, well, should we hire someone to produce the podcast? Should we hire somebody to, do the video editing? So then we'll have YouTube and IG and all this stuff. And basically what we ended up just deciding is we're going to keep them short and sweet for now. And as we grow, we will go into longer podcasts, more complex, shooting, stuff like that. Any thoughts?
No, I think you're right. I think it's just we just have to record where we're at improvise with what we have.
Yeah, done is much better than perfect, and we were definitely shooting for perfect before we were doing anything. So I think that's going to be the big takeaway. So this is we when we have 1,000 episodes, we'll re-release our first 10 hours of podcast, and we can kind of see where it was, because we got really deep into some stuff.
That's some good conversation going.
Yeah, stuff you really opened, really raw. And so we're going to try to do that as much as we can, in the half hour that we have available to us for now. And we'll learn to not do things like that, like put stuff on the table so it makes noise. But we'll get as deep as we can and cover topics that I think are ideas that are worth spreading. Okay. So the first thing that I think everybody's dying to know here is about Paula's journey. So let's summarize here.
No.
Let's summarize here. So in your words, how did we meet, and how does that get to where we are today, and your weight loss journey, and how has that gone your whole life, and how does that get to us to where we are today?
I mean, I've been overweight most of my life. I am currently overweight. We met, I want to say...
What do you weigh right now?
Last weigh-in was 251.
251.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
We have an in-body scanner at Parkside CrossFit. We have one at the other location too, in Long Beach, Metcon Long Beach. And so Paula and I got together, did the scan, found out she's 251, did some goal setting. So that's what we're working with right now.
And we met, I want to say 4. I can't remember if it's 3 or 4 years ago right now.
I think it'll be 4 years in May.
Okay.
May or June.
Yeah, we met 4 years ago through your ex-fiance.
Through my ex-fiance.
And, I knew when I heard that I was friends with her for a while. She was my first CrossFit coach. So when I heard she was near my house, I had to come and see what was going on. And then you and I became really good friends. And, I keep saying, you just kept asking why. You always keep asking why. And I think something I was talking about in therapy today, there's been a lot of growth. I mean, because look at our situation now. I keep telling you, who would have ever thought this would have been kind of where we end up 4 years later.
For anybody that doesn't know either, we just moved in together. So I was just telling Paula the other day, I've never felt like someone, and I'm close to my sisters, I really love my sisters. I've never felt like someone that is not family is as much family as Paula and I are.
Meaning we love and hate each other just as equally.
But it's good. It works.
Yeah.
It works really, really well. So yeah, Paula, I guess from my perspective there, Paula came to the gym. So Parkside CrossFit, I went there for a while before becoming a coach. I'll just tell the whole story right now.
Yeah.
So basically I was like 18, 19 years old, and I had friends that were living in LA, and I wanted to come visit. I was going to school in Minnesota, and so super dedicated to working out and everything. Came for a visit, was like, I got to find a gym to drop into. And the closest one was Parkside CrossFit. And I went there and I met the guy. Shout out to Randy. Shout out to like Stephanie and her family, because those
Excuse me.
those were the people that I came to hang out with. And I thought the guy was awesome. I mean, he was an actor. He had a gym. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to, when I'm not, working on acting stuff, I want to work out, and that would be really cool. And so I graduated college. I moved here. I happened to move close enough to be able to go to Parkside CrossFit. Went there for a while, and eventually, there's more details involved here, but
So you were a member?
I was. Yeah.
I thought you coached.
I was a member, and then I did some coaching.
Nice.
Yeah. And so eventually, Randy became a full geezer and wanted to retire and sold the gym to me. And so this was at the very end of April 2018. Mm-hmm. So almost 4 years ago now. And then shortly thereafter, Paola decided.
April 28th. I remember.
Yeah. Shortly thereafter, Paula came to the gym, and at the time was like 290 plus pounds, right?
And I was just like a little lost child. I mean, emotionally, just needed so much help, so much guidance. I just needed someone to listen to me. I never felt like anyone cared or anyone saw me. And I think for the first time, I felt seen and heard. And someone wanted to help without wanting something in return. Maybe besides money, No, I'm just kidding. No, and actually, I think for a while, I worked for you guys too. So, but yeah, I mean, I came along, and I mean, I did really well. The first 2-3 years. And then things changed. There was a lot of like life changes for both of us. Mm-hmm. For me, I mean, I put on 50 pounds.
Yeah. So at the lowest, you're under 200.
I was exactly 199.
Exactly 199.
Yeah.
So I was almost 100 pounds down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that took a couple years.
Yeah. It was.
And it was really, really quality weight too, because you didn't just starve yourself. You didn't just not eat. You mostly were doing weightlifting.
Yeah.
Get that? Mostly just weightlifting. Yeah. Lost almost 100 pounds.
Especially that last 15 pounds. There was hardly any cardio. I mean, the pandemic had just started, and I did a cut for 8 weeks and dropped those 15 pounds, and I got really lean. I was at my leanest when I met my boyfriend, Dom. I met him during the pandemic. Yeah, and we just, for me, I deal with a lot of my stress with food. So when things changed, like my normal changed. The gym, my best friends.
Yeah.
So that really was, I mean, like I would just cry all the time. Like no one understood. How could anybody understand unless you were a part of it? We talk a lot about this.
Yeah. Unless
you were part of the friendships, the
relationships at the gym.
Yeah. And the close relationships we had.
Yeah.
So that had a huge effect on me, and here I am. But now I have you. What do you call it? The $10,000 a month plan?
Yeah. Not getting away with anything now.
If he could slap rice out of my hand, I think he would.
Yeah. No, it definitely a lot of stuff changed, and I think what that really illustrates is that everybody has ups and downs, because there were a ton of people on social media looked up to you as like, oh, she's always at the gym. Like she never falls off. And people will treat people that are successful like that. Oh, they never have downtimes. And it's just not true. Mm-hmm. It's all about trying to minimize those downtimes as much as you can. If you can get it down to your downtime, your off time is a day, instead of years or instead of months. Mm-hmm. Right. So we'll get into this more on deeper podcasts, but essentially, my ex and Paula and I were super, super close.
Super close.
And we virtually go through what, it freaking felt like a divorce, right? And
Yeah.
and in some ways,
It's very, very, very traumatic.
well, in some ways, I'm joking, but I'm also serious. Paula was like the child that went up for custody.
And I decided to stay with Dad.
So that's not what happened. It wasn't a custody battle or anything, but
it did feel like that. It did feel like that child who was stuck between two very important people.
Yeah, and I think between the pandemic and moving and getting new jobs, and I can certainly like
you bought a new gym. So many things changed.
Having a gym during the pandemic was like an unbelievable stressor. Having a restaurant, stuff like that. Literally how we make money gets totally taken away from us, but all of our bills are still due, you know? It wasn't like, oh, you can't use the gym, you don't have to pay rent for it. It's like, no, you can't use the gym and you still have to pay rent for it, So there were a lot of, unique challenges there as well. But I think, Paula and I have, been through a lot, and I think it's such a unique pairing, right? Like people will reach out to me on Instagram now because we're really like putting a lot more of like who we are, like on more so me than you, because you did a really good job there for a while and sharing your journey, but putting up who we are. And people have reached out to me, when we tag each other, go back and forth, they'd be like, yo, y'all are my favorite Instagram friends. Which I think is like, it's like this really, really cool thing. And, over the pandemic, like Paula became close to my sister and, met my dad and,
oh yeah.
Right.
Really
and like, and I, one of Paula's sisters, Susan, goes to the gym and like, so we really are like family, it's really, really cool. And basically how this podcast was born is we had these conversations every single night, about like life and trauma and improving and weight loss and strength gain and, success and everything, right? And happiness. And I don't know if it was me or you or somebody else, but someone was like, man, this should be a podcast.
Well, we kept telling you need to share this with other people, because I felt like your inner circle got so much of this. Kelsey, Courtney, Steph, Leslie, Dave, we all got this every single day. We talked to you. It would be midnight and we were still at the gym talking about why I was so traumatized by my dad. We're so much better now that we're in a better place.
We'll talk about daddy issues another time.
But you would want to talk to us about budgets and about, prioritizing, just so many different things that we said, you need to put this out there. And this is where we're at today.
Yeah, this will be part of it. So I'm definitely very passionate about happiness and overcoming and living a good life. And, people have called me obsessive before, which I think is fellow obsessive people. I'm making the quotations with my fingers. If you're not watching the video, can attest to that's just, dedication is really what it is. It's hard work. But yeah, we'll break down a lot of, what we've learned at the gym, what it's like, and my story too. Like people just don't believe how skinny I was compared to how I was now.
All the injuries, all the surgeries you went through.
Oh yeah. A lot of stuff. And so there's a lot of stuff, like my journey as being like a skinny gym owner, which was like a terrible thing for me. Like I hated that personally. Maybe a lot of people didn't care that much. But it was, terrible for me. And then, the injuries and the surgeries and
getting out of debt.
Getting out of debt. There's building a business from nothing. Parkside had in the neighborhood of like 7 members when we took over. Yeah. It was basically failing. It was basically failing. So, and we'll chat a lot more about like small business ownership and entrepreneurship and sales and, leadership and building a team and all of that stuff, but it's just going to be sharing a lot of the lessons that we have learned, along the way. It's never going to return to kind of what we were chatting about, that original experience, just given things have changed so much post pandemic, post my relationship and all of that stuff. But, just because something is different doesn't mean that it's not still great. Yeah. I'm trying to check how much time. Do you know what time we started?
And I think this should all stay, by the way, in the video, just to show what it really is.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, whenever I texted Dom.
Not cutting anything out.
6:42.
Okay, perfect. So we're 17 minutes in. So we're totally good. So we got a few more minutes to dig into deeper stuff here. It's easier for me to ask about you because obviously I think I know your story, better than anyone else. So,
what's funny though, but I've had to kind of retell my story recently.
Huh.
So I had a family member that parted ways with our family, I guess you could say. He was a child in the middle of a divorce, and he just kind of, he hated what this is what I think, because we haven't really talked about it, but he had to step away and kind of live his own life. He was in his, he was a teenager when his parents divorced. So it had been 20 years since I'd seen him. So I saw him at my grandmother's funeral, and I felt like, even now I feel like he's having to get to know me, and has no idea where I've been, these past 20 years. So I'm still like having to retell my story. And something that I said yesterday, he said, why haven't you spent so much time with, with our other cousins? I'm like, because I was always the ugly fat one. And that's how I identified like my whole life. Even within my family members, I was the ugly, chunky, the smart one who really brought nothing to the table. Because for them, I wasn't attractive or whatever it was. But having to retell those things those traumas that I lived with, but being in a different place now, I'm having to retell my story to someone, a family member. But, you kind of have to relive some of those moments.
When did you take on the identity as the ugly fat one?
Oh, early on. I would say early teens. And really it was my other family members were athletic, they were thin, they were very, very attractive, but see, when I look back, I wasn't that big. I maybe had an extra 15 pounds on me. 15, 20 pounds. And if they would have come off, I would have been normal. But for them, you know how family can be. They can be assholes.
I know how families can be.
Yeah. So, yeah, I actually had an uncle ask me once. He said, don't you want to be pretty like your cousin? You know what? I'm just going to put it out there because she knows about this. She said, don't you want to be pretty like your cousin Vanessa? I was like, what?
Damn.
I was like, are you serious?
So here's a moment we have to pause. If anybody has ever done that to you, the listener, that's not okay.
No.
And it's not your fault.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be carrying that burden around because that's terrible.
And I carried it around until I told my cousin, and that put me in a position where I felt very uncomfortable with her. Growing up, they always compared me to her.
Oh, well, here's the thing. And again, this is a topic that we'll super be able to dive into. But so much of siblings or young cousins hating each other is actually the parents doing.
Yeah.
But the kids don't know that. And so like siblings will oftentimes grow up hating each other because there's the golden child and the parents are like, why can't you be like more like the golden child? Well, that doesn't make the other sibling want to be more like the child. They want to even go further in reverse. Right. And then they end up hating each other and maybe they don't know why, or the golden child doesn't understand the resentment, and it's the parents not seeing them as like unique individuals, So yeah, I can only imagine how that must have made you feel about Vanessa. The fact that you guys are still cool is like a miracle,
Well, because it wasn't anything we felt towards each other.
Yeah.
And I actually am upset because I could have really gotten to know her a lot better growing up. And I mean, now we get to do it as adults, but Yeah, I think that, it really shaped, I took on that identity. It really shaped who I was.
So you saw Vanessa as the opposite of you, essentially.
Yeah. And every other girl as the opposite of me. And I told my cousin actually last night when we were texting, I said, now I just tell myself I'm beautiful inside and out. And he said, just he told me, repeat that to yourself every day. And then I tried to, because whether I put on 50 pounds or not, I still feel like it's going to be, might be funny, but I feel my most amazing self, like when I'm throwing around a barbell. I don't care how sweaty I am. I don't care what I look like. I feel confident. I feel like I can take on the world. Okay, that's it. No tears.
That's
no
not
tears.
it. So we're taking 6:00 tomorrow, right?
7.
Yeah. No, this year's going to be awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
you've already proven you've gotten below 200. You've almost lost 100 pounds, and that was with me coaching you. Except now, I'm coaching you basically all the time now. So because something that I know for you that's really important. I think this is important for people in general, but I know with you is you need momentum. Like once you start getting your first couple wins,
Yeah.
it just takes off for you. It's like a snowball, and then you're good. But so many people, and I've seen you struggle with this. I've seen you have nothing moves in 3 weeks, and it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna quit. But it's like you get your first few wins, and then you don't need anybody else.
Do you remember box jumps?
I do.
Okay, that's what it comes to mind. I couldn't do it. And then you talked to me, and then I still couldn't do them. And then you turned around, and then I got 50 something in a row.
I don't remember, but I remember you went from crying that you couldn't to crying that you did.
Yeah. But I feel like that's that. I need to get that momentum going. Like I'm gonna try and I'm gonna fail. That's what I feel like I've been doing the last year and a half. I've somewhat tried, and then just constantly failed. And I feel like the last couple of weeks, even if I have some sweet potato fries, I think just keep going. Don't just cry in the corner and give up. It's okay.
And it's so important because, and I just was posting about this the other day on Instagram, is almost everybody seems to believe that motivation is what leads you to be successful. And I just don't know where that comes from because it's not true. Motivation is completely unnecessary. Motivation is a feeling like hungry or like hunger. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. Can you make yourself more hungry? Yeah. But you're never going to be hungry all the time unless, you have some sort of hormonal disease or whatever, very rare disease. But
Sorry.
My point stands is you can accomplish whatever it is that you want to in life without feeling a single ounce of motivation. Motivation almost always comes after seeing that you've done something positive and successful. So it doesn't come before. You have to earn motivation. You have to do things in order to get motivation. And that's the thing is there's always this lag. It's like, I'm not motivated. Oh, I set a PR, personal record. Oh, I lost 5 pounds. Really? Oh, I ate really well last week. Oh, I made it to the gym every day last week. And now you're starting to feel good. Now you're starting to feel motivated. Now you have that momentum, and now you have these wins, and you feel motivated, and you want to do it, and you're feeling better. You get more energy. You're not as sore. You're not as tired. You're seeing the point of all of this. But you have to get back past that first initial, why am I doing this? I worked so hard last week. I worked so hard the last 2 weeks, and I just didn't get the results I wanted. So back to the couch and donuts. And it just doesn't, nothing works that way. Literally nothing, and people don't. It's also very interesting is I see people constantly doing things they don't want to do, but for other people to get something they want, like going to work. So many people hate their jobs. They don't want to go to the work. They wake up in the morning and they go, I don't want to go to work.
Just like that.
And then they go to work. And not only do they go to work, but they do a really good job at work. The whole time they don't want to. The whole time they're like, I'm helping this other, I'm only here because my boss. I'm only here because, trying to make my boss rich or, whatever it is. I'm only here so I can get paid. And they don't want to, but they do a good job. And I'm like, you will do things for other people well that you don't want to do in order to get something you want: money, stability, career, benefits. But when it comes to doing something you don't want to do, but for you, you're just out of luck. Nothing you can do. Nope, I'm tired. I don't want to. It's over. Nope. I did enough stuff I didn't want to do today at work for my boss, so I'm not going to do anything for me. What? If anything, it should be the opposite. You have to do things that you don't want to do to get things that you are going to want later.
Have you ever considered that it's a trauma response?
What do you mean?
That putting yourself last or not making yourself a priority could be a trauma response? There might be a conversation for another podcast.
I was gonna say, so we're like, it's a great question.
It's kind of food for thought. But I know we're almost there.
Yeah,
I would say food for thought, and I say this because
we'll talk about it. That's podcast number 2, but we have to totally wrap it up because that's gonna cut off. But podcast, the next one, that's what we'll cover. Shit, we'll start doing the next podcast right now. We'll have 2 tonight. Anyway, that is the Connor Green podcast. I am your host, Connor Green, and of course, co-hosted by
Paula.
By Paula Osorio, otherwise known as Popo. We hope you enjoyed this, learned something about it. Please share it.
Yeah, so thank you for listening.
Yeah, share it. Find us on Instagram. I'm at Connor J Green, Jay, and at
Lipsticks and Barbells.
Twitter, Facebook. We're gonna put these on YouTube. Everything. Yeah. If this meant something to you, or there's somebody that could benefit from this, that's why we do this. It's like we really want to help reach people that need some of the things that we're talking about. So please share it with them, and we'll see you on the next podcast.
See you later.